Welcome, welcome. Welcome to those on Facebook. Please feel free to write any comments on the chat box. If you have any questions for our VIPs to ask Sarah, please head on over to the Q&A section just at the bottom of your screen, and we'll be happy to answer them live for you. And if we don't have the answer today, we will the next week, and we will follow up with you. So make sure to head on over to www.hackmankind.com if you haven't done so already, so you can have VIP backstage access to all our calls and content that some we do not share on Facebook. So let's get started with vertical mindset. So just before, for those who have never been on this call, Sarah, what's our vertical mindset call about?
So for me, this idea of living vertically, it happened kind of by accident as I came up with a catchy name for my blog a few years ago, realizing that our words really have power. So I came up with this catchy name of Vertical Blonde, and I kind of consider her my alter ego. And as the months and years went on, it sort of took on this mindset of its own. And this idea for me is that every single thing in our life is a stepping stone for us. It is something that can elevate us. It has the potential in kind of this pivot, and you even look at it as like the V, it can either disable us or it can elevate us. And so this idea of living vertically and this vertical mindset is that everything has a potential one way or the other. And so to live vertically is that we're going to take the elevation route. We're going to take the high route. We're going to take it so that I kind of use this motto of sit tall, stand tall, and realize that everything in your life is happening for you to elevate you.
100%. Stand tall no matter what the circumstances. And right now we got plenty. We're all going through whatever it is we're going. And you may picture us. We were just actually talking backstage, and I'm not going to say what we were talking about, but we're all, even personally, and Sarah, like we may show up on these calls and you're like, oh, they've got it all figured out. They're perfect. They have nothing. They don't have any pain in their life. No, we do. We do. And just because we show up the way we show up in life does not mean that we don't have real things going on. And we do have those things. However, we choose. So last week's theme was choice. We choose to be the way we are and to have this vertical mindset. So thank you so much for this beautiful reminder, Sarah, on how to, no matter what the circumstances, this is a choice that we can take. So talking about choices in last week's theme, this week's theme is, take it away, Sarah. What is this week's theme and what is your thought?
This week's theme is discipline, and morning and for me, these back medicine, I spoke about this in our previous weeks. Can you hear me? It looks like my internet, it says is unstable.
It was
make sure that
it was a little choppy, but I can hear you now. Do you want to give it another try?
We're good?
Yes.
We're good now? Okay, good. So for me, it starts the night before. Like it's stacked on each other. And so this idea of, for me, is always starts with journaling. The night before, I get all of that from the day out of my head. I don't think that we have the mental capacity, I don't care how smart you are, to work out our issues within our head. I think we need to get that pen to paper. I think it's extremely therapeutic. And by doing so, you can start your next morning with an extremely clear mind. And then for me, it's funny because I was thinking about this idea of discipline, and my immediate thought actually I went to private Catholic school, and it went to the nuns at private school and their discipline. And I thought, okay, first of all, I'm going to have to reset that for myself. Like, if we think of something negative when we think of discipline, we're not going to follow through. Like this idea of pain and pleasure. And Peter even talked about it on a call as well, of how our pain and our pleasure really dictate our direction and what we're going to be focusing on. And so I thought, even for myself, okay, what is discipline really? Like, if I really think about it. And in the very beginning of the morning, it starts with an awareness of my body. And I have, I think, my disability to thank for this, because it actually, I start with a lot more pain. So my pain goes there. And if I don't begin to address my body first thing, then I'm set up for a painful day. Like the pain just wears me down more and more as the day goes on. But if I really set my intention of, okay, where is the pain in my body? How can I stretch it out? I do stretches before I even get out of bed. I'm stretching out those achy moments, versus I think a lot of people, it's like, oh God, here we go. We're starting the day and they're sluggish and getting out of bed, feet hitting the floor really heavy. And, you know, or you can, you know, stretch and bring awareness to your body of the areas that need it, and then allow your body to kind of dictate from there, you know, what you're going to be doing and how you're going to focus. So for me, it really starts the night before with journaling, get a clear mind. And then the next morning it begins with awareness. And then once the pain has been kind of stretched out of the body, I can go a little deeper if there's something in me that needs some attention. And yeah, I think that for a persona, and I get this actually a lot as a negative, that, oh, it's easy for you. Like you make it look so easy. And sometimes I have to remind even my closest family and friends, this isn't easy. I may make it look easy, and because I've been working at it for a very long time. Like it has not been easy all along. And my mom and I were even we were going over this just last night, about those early days of like barely hanging on after my accident, and like, oh my gosh, like, is this really what life is now looking like? I mean, I would be in bed for all hours. I would be, you know, I would have to start my morning with a very uncomfortable and, for lack of a better word, ugly and messy bathroom routine, that my body wasn't working correctly. My bowels and my bladder, like they had a mind of their own, and still sometimes do. And so, but you know, that's a private part of me too, that I'm not going to be airing out to the world. I really, as this pandemic began, I had a discipline within myself of, what do I want to put out right now? What do I want to put out? And for me, it was the idea of overcoming and living vertically over those obstacles. So yeah, it's not always pretty. It's not always easy. It's not always glamorous. It is very ugly. It can be rotten at times. It can be extremely painful, but that discipline is in our choice. That discipline is in our awareness. And so for me, I set, and I'm probably even going even beyond the question, but for me, I went to Date with Destiny in December, and it was great timing because I was getting ready to start a new year. And I thought, what is like my word for the year? Like and we did this through a values exercise. And for me, it was alignment. I wanted my body, mind, and soul to be very aligned with what my values were, with what my ethics were, aligned with the direction I wanted to go in. And I also wanted my body to be aligned. And the more aligned I am with the discipline of what I'm doing with my body, with my fitness, with my stretching, with my awareness to my body, that the pressure begins to relieve and the pressure begins to dissipate. So I think that above all else, our discipline begins with awareness. And awareness is getting brutally honest with ourselves about where we're beginning and where we want to go.
Thank you for sharing that. What would you say? So there's two things I'd like to mention with what you said, which is so true. And I feel some people right now may be feeling what you were feeling, where when you were like, it's rotten. It's like, why is this happening to me right now? It's like, we thought I had it bad, or I thought before I had it bad. Now it's like worse than I could ever possibly imagine. What's your advice? Like, what would you say? Because sometimes just getting out of bed seems like a whole mountain. And then when we have all these expectations on ourselves, on like, this is the time to be, doing something, or whatever it is that we're hearing out there, or we're looking at social media, and it feels like a huge mountain to overcome. And you had that feeling after you had your accident, and you're saying exactly what you were telling us. What's your advice to somebody who's going through it right now? What would you have to hear when that happened? What would have made a difference?
So I got some impeccable advice literally a day or two after I was injured. And it came from my Aunt Stacy. And I mean, I probably talk about this more than anything else because it was so influential for me. And I'm laying there, I mean, body broken beyond belief. I was in the intense trauma unit. And my aunt came in just simply for a hug. And she comes in and she hugs me, and I just whisper one word in her ear. I just said, "Why?" And she pulls away from me, and with all the sternness she could muster, she says, "Don't you ever, ever, ever ask why. You are not going to get an answer, and looking for that answer is going to eat you alive. That answer is going to come when it's supposed to, so do not ask." And that was so perfect, because anytime I started to travel into the no man's land of why, it's an unanswerable question while you're in it. You're not gonna get that answer until you've journeyed through it. And I'm sorry to say that that's true, but that's part of being honest right now, is that I didn't get that answer until many years later. So, and I don't say the many years later to defeat you or to deflate your hopes in any way, but more of to allow yourself to journey through it. And I think it did take me that long because I got stuck in denial for a very long time. And I decided that I would put on the joyful, happy face at any chance I got. And then behind closed doors, I was breaking and not asking for help, not allowing myself to cry. I would not forgive myself when I would get upset, be like, "You're stronger than this. They expect more from you. You can't be weak." That, they're expecting that peppy sunshine Sarah. The motto was even the sunshine song for me. Sunny when clouds are gray, was that they're like, "That's what you are." So I was like, I had this undue pressure to be joyful and happy and sunshine, even though I was dying inside. So one is, you don't ask why. That answer is going to come when it's supposed to. Number two, you give yourself the grace to travel through it. And knowing that you're going to speed up the process, asking for help, diving into the care and the love and the concern of not only your friends and family, but there's something really, really special when you exchange money for your worries. Meaning, I then begin to start feeling like a burden if I'm talking to my friends and my family about my woes, like, "Oh my gosh, I don't want to bring them down, so sad." But the day I discovered a therapist and support groups and a coach, that's when things really shifted. Because I thought, here you go. I'm giving you my money, or in a support group, I'm showing up, and you get to listen to everything I need to work out. And I think when you exchange that, it's way more priceless than the money that you're giving. Because I began to feel relief, and I began to have a safe space, and I began to open up in ways that I found nowhere else than outside the walls of my therapist's room. I still tell her, I said, this is inside her walls is the place that I feel the most honest, the most relief, the most vulnerable. I can give her everything I've got. And she replied one day, "And I love you more for it." And I'd never heard those words before, because all my life I was getting more love for the brighter the sunshine I was providing than the honesty I was giving. And the day that she said that, things shifted for me in how I looked at honesty with myself, honesty about my feelings, honesty about the grieving process I was going through, honesty about where I wanted to go and where I was. So all of that has really served me And it took me a while to figure it out. So I'm here to save you some time. Get yourself the support that you need, and it's okay. Everything is going to be okay. I always knew in my heart that I'd be okay, but I had no idea what okay was going to look like. So we have to release our expectations of what we think life's going to look like. And I think that expectations are where the real hurt plays in. So there you've got it.
Thank you. One of the things you mentioned, and that rang, that I feel could be perceived as a little, let me just mention it, and then it was that you say you have to be brutally honest with yourself. So one of the things that rang true to me when I said is like, well, I feel like sometimes I'm too brutal with myself. It's like, right? What do you think about that?
So that, I think that's really great awareness for me, because again, the words we choose to use are everything. So for me, the brutally honest just meant that like you'd get down to the gritty, like the brass tacks of what we're really talking about. But I think I should really think about taking out the word brutally. I think maybe just extremely honest, like let's stop there. Because yeah, we can be really brutal, especially if we're an overachiever, especially if we put those extra pressures on ourselves to be one way or the other, like me with the sunshine. That it's more about just getting extremely honest and then forgiving yourself in the process. So remembering to give yourself grace. What you're going through is crappy. It's hard. It sucks. Okay, like that's okay to say. That is okay to recognize. And it's also okay to say, yeah, and I'm going to get through it. I can do this. I can do this if I'm honest. I can do this if I'm aware. But we have to forgive ourselves over and over and over. You have to forgive yourself on having an expectation that might be extremely unrealistic. We have to forgive ourselves for being too brutal. We have to forgive the people, places, and things that had something to do with the circumstances that we're in. That was a big part of mine, was forgiving the experience itself on how I was injured, forgiving the people that were involved. It was a very emotional time because it wasn't just me. And then in the recovery process, it's not just me. I had so much focus and emphasis put on me, and I forget how much it affected everyone around me and everyone else having to put on their brave face. And so I think that showing up for ourselves in a way of, this is what's happened and this is where I want to go with it, or this is how I need to now deal with it and heal through it. But we sometimes give ourselves a lot of undue pressure. And I understand that word brutal. I can be really brutal with myself. I can be downright mean. And I think I'm not the only one. Like, I think every single person out there watching right now has been, and probably is on a very regular basis, extremely cruel to ourselves. The saying goes that we wouldn't speak to another the way we speak to ourselves. And that's really true. And then when we know that we're not the only one in that, that gives us relief too. So as hard as it is, give yourself grace. And that word brutal, I thank you for that. Again, another piece of awareness for me of the words that we choose and the words that we're choosing, especially when we're trying to help other people, that it's going to be taken a million different ways. Everything in our life is the meaning we attach. Even when I initially started to think about the word discipline, and I went back to 5th grade at St. Anne's with the nuns, I'm like, okay, we're gonna have to redefine that one. So maybe redefining what brutally honest is for people too can help. And again, it just goes back to awareness. It goes back to that ability to be open, honest. This is where I'm at. This is where I want to go. This is the journey in between.
Yes, I've been borrowing this word and people have attributed to me in our circle, but it's been from a colleague of mine many years ago, and she called it being audaciously authentic. So,
That sounds very regal to me. Audaciously authentic. I like it. There's a new elevation to that. I like it a lot.
and you mentioned something about sometimes, yeah, we can definitely be really hard on ourselves, and then that affects, yeah, and we wouldn't say those words to others. I think it also impacts how we talk to others. When we're so harsh on each other, it really does affect those who we love, wouldn't you say?
For sure. The one of the songs that I've got on repeat right now is, I think it's called "I Dare You" or "Dare You" by Kelly Clarkson. And you think it's going to be tough love, or you think it's going to be kind of like a cruel song, but the point of the song is, I dare you to love. I dare you to lead with love. And that, my friend, with ourselves, with others, is the hardest thing to do. In my opinion, I think that takes way more discipline than anything else, than our morning routines, all of that. It's the discipline of how we show up with ourselves, the discipline of how we show up with others, and the discipline it takes to lead with love. Because whether we like it or not, like the patterns that have been put in place by our parents and their parents and their parents, up until now, leading with love has not been on the forefront. It's been a lot of tough love. It's been a lot of suck it up and make it happen. And so I think that having this discipline to show up and lead with love, like, I dare you. And I keep thinking about that, man, like, how hard is that, especially when we feel wronged, especially right now in this pandemic, when the laundry list is there to support us feeling wronged, right? Things aren't going well with the economy, and things are turning down, and the virus itself. And we could get into a really deep place of putting blame on people, places, and things, and how in a situation itself. And so it takes way more discipline to rise above the blame game. It takes way more discipline to lead with love, to lead with compassion, to lead with this authenticness, to lead with vulnerability, to lead with this intention of rising above, this intention of healing, this intention of wanting to right the wrongs within ourselves, and the discipline it takes to forgive when we feel wronged. I don't know, but that is way harder, and it takes way more discipline. But the results are that much more beneficial for everyone involved.
Well, what would be your advice? So I've got two perspectives on this. Is when you yourself have a vertical mindset, right? And those around you, especially during this time, are letting all those external factors get to them and are not having that vertical mindset. And they don't even like that you have it, or see it even as an insult that you have it. How do you handle that?
Absolutely. Those are tough. And as I had my notes for getting ready for this, people was on there. You have to have a discipline of what you are letting into your world. Okay. So you first have to prepare yourself, sort of arm yourself with the love, right? So it's what you're ingesting. It's what you're ingesting food. It's what you're ingesting, the podcasts, the things you're watching, the things you're listening to, the books, the conversations you're having. You have to be really disciplined about what you're letting out, or what you're letting in, so that your output can be stronger, because those people are going to be around you. And sometimes they're in your home right now. You're living with them, and putting yourself in proximity to people that are going to help raise you up and help have that vertical mindset is getting more difficult. So the discipline's even there even more, so that you surround yourself with them, that you're talking to them, that you're having the text threads going on, that you're helping to lift each other up, so that it's coming in and out, so that when you have to arm with love, when you have to arm with the higher road, when you have to arm with that perspective, you are more prepared. Just like how I begin my day with the stretching and the releasing the pain from the body, so that I'm more prepared to take on my day, so I'm not weighed down by the pain itself. That is even more so with the mental game that we're playing and the emotional game, so that, yeah, we are surrounding ourselves, because I'm sure I annoy the crap out of a lot of people. I'm sure that people are like, oh my gosh, blonde hair, blue eyed, bubbly, like might as well be chomping a gum and on the top of a cheerleading squad. Like that kind of, I'm sure that something in that annoys some people. And that was actually a really hard pill to swallow for me, because one of my driving forces has always been make sure people like me and make sure I'm a people pleaser. So I've had to begun to have this discipline of being a disruptor. And this disrupting is not malicious. It's not to go stir things up, but it's to disrupt that I won't always have people liking me and understanding the way that the way that I think and the way that I travel through life. So it's up to me to ensure that I'm surrounding myself with people that serves. I'm surrounding myself with people that have that similar mindset, so that we can lift each other up, so that when we are up against it, like I said, it can be your neighbor, it can be in your own home, it can be your family, your friends. There's some of my friends that still are just like, oh my gosh, like we've got a text message of all of our best girlfriends, and it's like, here comes Sarah with her bubbly perspective, and at the end of the day, sometimes people really enjoy being uncomfortable. They enjoy that comfort zone of the blame, because they don't have to take any accountability. And frankly, it is really comfortable, because that's where we naturally go to. So breaking free, again, that was on the notes here, breaking free from that familiar takes a lot of discipline. Breaking free out of those comfort zones that have served us for a really long time and made it so that we don't have to take any responsibility, made it so that we don't have to rise above our circumstances, made it so that, we sort of travel around those people that are going to make us feel good about feeling bad, make it so that it's okay to feel bad. And on one hand, yes, feel your feelings, allow them to be processed, heal through them, but don't get stuck there in the way of comfort. Don't get stuck there, because it may be comfortable because it's familiar, but we can stay in uncomfortable, familiar situations for a very long time, until the pressure one day gets to be too much. Something sets us off and we're like, oh my gosh, I've hated this all along. I don't want to be here. So, and I think we can use this in any scenario in our life. It doesn't just have to be with pandemic. It doesn't have to be just super great. It could be with a friendship. It could be with a job. It could be with a situation that you're in. It could be a group that you're in that is no longer serving you. You have to recognize when it's actually disservicing you by staying in that comfort.
100%. Thank you so much for all like amazing life hacks and perspective. I'm conscious of the time. I see we're already 30 minutes in. We always try and keep this call to 30 minutes, and we always go over because it's so interesting, and I love spending time with you. And I'm sure those who are visiting also love it. And we're having some comments like, yeah, break free out of those comfort zones. Preach. Oh my goodness, I love that. Thank you so much for tuning in, for watching. Oh, I love the little hearts and the thumbs up on Facebook. Please remember to sign up at www.hackmankind.com so you can have free access, and that's actually going to be finishing towards the end of the day or tomorrow, because we're very close to reaching that 1,000 mark in terms of first 1,000 members. So make sure www.hackmankind.com. You just have to put your email on there and you'll have backstage access to all our calls. This has been an incredible Monday. I'll do a little recap later on in a couple hours. And I'll catch you tomorrow. Thank you so much. We'll catch Sarah next week, same time, Monday, 3 p.m. Eastern time, 9 a.m. Hawaii time. Thank you so much. Any final thoughts before we go, Sarah?
You know, I think that at the end of the day, that discipline, redefine what that word means to you. And having the honesty, however you want to define that honesty. I like brutal honesty. If you want audaciously authentic, whatever word rings true, ensure that that discipline is about serving your higher good. Because you can only serve those around you when you are servicing yourself first and you're leading from that place of love, which sometimes is the hardest thing to do. So sending you guys a lot of aloha. Aloha really does mean offering the love from me to you. And again, just sit tall, stand tall, realize that everything in your life is there to either disable you or service you and elevate you. You get to choose.
You get to choose. Thank you so much, Sarah. We'll see you next week. Always love our conversations. Thanks for tuning in, and we'll catch you on our next video. Bye, guys. Bye, Sarah.
Aloha.